What's up guys, it's your boy the Chat Kid, going back here with a new video, and today it's going to be another creepypasta reading. As you know, as I know, I can see from the views that I've got, it's good. I can see you guys really like it. So today I'm going to start a longer-winded series, and it's going to be the Jeff the Killer reboot. So I hope you guys like it. Anyways, no messing around. Let's go. Oh, actually no. Alright, we're good. The day Jeffrey Woods and his family arrived at their new home, the sky was overcast and the weather was muggy. The grey sky seemed to punctuate his mood. Jeff was not thrilled to be there. The new home was beautiful though, a true example of his father's newfound success. But still, it wasn't the home he'd known. A week after they'd settled in, Jeff and Lou woke up early. The sky was a crisp and gorgeous blue, and although the Louisiana heat was playing its usual cruel tricks, the brothers decided that a morning bike ride to explore the area would be just the right ticket to combat the slight pangs of homesickness that they'd been both experiencing over the past week. "I miss home," Lou blurted out as Jeff was smearing salsa on the microwave burrito that he would serve as breakfast. "Me too, Lou. I guess this is home now, so we just sort of have to make the most of it." "I know, but all of our friends and stuff are back in New Orleans. That building we'd always sneak up on and watch the city lights come on. I miss that," Lou responded, sounding down. "Yeah, and ZM Video. Iona knew us and would let us rent, and would always let us rent R-rated movies without our parents. And he'd always hook us up with a free video game rental if we got a few movies. Yeah, I miss that too. But Lou, Lou interrupted. "I know, but we have to make the most out of this. But still, this place just seems so fake. And Mum and Dad still treat us like we aren't even here." "Yep, they do. I was hoping the new house would improve their mood. But what can we do?" Lou had no answer. Jeff finished his breakfast and the two boys left the house to mount their bikes and explore around a bit more. As it turns out, the subdivision they moved into was rather close to a cluster of stores in a small shopping centre. Village Shopping Centre was the name of the short row of businesses. With these were a Pizza Hut, a Chinese restaurant, a tobacco store, a Sprint store, and, what Jeff and Lou were most excited about, a video store. "We'll have to go get Mum or Dad to come down and open an account so we can rent movies," Lou mentioned as Jeff flipped over the box to read the description of a horror movie. You're right. Jeff snapped, feeling a bit of frustration at the thought. He knew getting his parents to actually come down here and set up a membership would take forever, although their usual after-work routine was to go off into separate rooms until they got hungry enough to come out and speak. Jeff glanced over at the girl working behind the counter. "Maybe I can go over there and sweet-talk her into giving us accounts," he joked. "You're right, Jeff. One look at you and she'll probably ban us," Lou remarked, a smile broad across his face. "You doubt me, little man? Doubt you? The guy who's kissed two girls and almost touched a boob? Never! Please, go on over there and lay all on the charm." "Whatever. I could have totally banged that girl, but her parents came home and..." "Last time he told me that story, he said her parents were out of town and her sister came home." Jeff became flustered and, more in the process of making yet another comeback, the girl behind the register removed all doubt by speaking to the boys herself. "Hey, are those your bikes?" the young woman asked, pointing towards the glass window. Jeff and Lou looked over and saw three boys outside, two of which were riding around in circles on the Woods brothers' bikes. They would spin and then jump off, letting the bikes crash onto the pavement just to stand them up and ride them again. The boys riding their bikes were both slim in build, while the heavier boys stood on the sidewalk, drinking Red Bull and watching. Jeff and his brother made their way towards the door of the video store when the fat kid saw them coming. Jeff couldn't hear what they were saying, what he said to his two friends, but he made some sort of a gesture while shouting, and the other two boys dumped their bikes where they lay and walked towards the sidewalk directly towards the two brothers. "These your bikes?" One of the boys asked Jeff and Lou as they entered the summer heat. Yeah, why are you riding them? Lou asked sharply. We just saw them, man. Relax. Figured someone left them out for us, the same boy responded as two of his friends joined them on either side. Jeff, determined to make a good start here, tried to change the course of this confrontation. Well, they're ours. We just moved here a week ago. We live on Fairmount Avenue, a few blocks from here. We were just checking out the neighbourhood. Jeff hoped that civil tone could turn things around, but you could tell by the insolent look on the kid's faces that this was going to be a difficult gamble. Good for you. You moved somewhere. Oh yeah, Troy. The first boy spoke. They moved into that piece of shit house with the gravel driveway. I wonder who would move into that place. Well, Randy, now we know, the big kid, apparently named Troy, replied. Jeff, still trying to solve this conversation, tried peaceful banter one more time. So, you're Troy and you're Randy. Well, I'm Jeff and this is my brother Lou. We just moved here from New Orleans. We ain't in New Orleans now, the third boy, who just now decided to speak, remarked. Yeah, and who the fuck said you could recall us by our names? Randy asked, that insolent, privileged smile ever leaving his face. Jeff smiled and responded to Randy. Well, I guess I could have called you a fucking asshole, but I figured I would give you the benefit of the doubt. In that moment, a flare of rage replaced the smirk that rested on Randy's face throughout this entire exchange. The two boys, Troy and the still unknown third member of his band, seemed to be momentarily struck silent. Perhaps they weren't used to being stood up to. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that language too adult for you? Jeff asked. And you, quiet boy, we know this isn't New Orleans, Jeff said to the slim kid that reminded him of his geographical locations. Because if this was New Orleans, you three would already have your asses kicked for touching someone else's shit. The slim kid looked back and forth at his two friends. However, Randy, clearly the leader, seemed to know what to say. Keith, you gonna let this bitch talk to you like that? Jeff knew this part. While he wanted to quite badly sock Randy and his pals around, a real concern suddenly invaded his mind. If he and Lou got into a fight on their first week in this new neighbourhood, their parents would freak. You could practically hear it now. And while things had hardly been far from perfect at home, even after the move, there was a peace that had fallen over the family. And Jeff, fighting his urges, decided to do his best to keep it. Jeff looked over the three, very well dressed, very privileged looking suburban kids before dismissing them. And dismissed them. You guys are boring. Come on, Lou. Let them continue their play dates without us. Lou laughed at that and followed behind his brother towards the bikes. However, Randy and his gang of would-be toughs would have none of that. They moved to block Jeff and his brother once again. Are you good, pussy? Randy asked, shoving Jeff. Jeff could tell that shove had no real conviction. Randy was trying to figure him out, seeing where his buttons were. He'd push harder eventually, but Jeff swallowed the slowly building anger within him once more. Lou took a bit more exception to the shove. We're going to your mum's house. Me and my brother saved a couple dollars from doing chores and she'll be here. She doesn't charge much. As the words left Lou's mouth, Randy appeared to only register a small portion of it. Randy Hayden grew up in Mandeville. His father was a partner at a local firm that made a lot of money, something that Jeff would soon come to learn. Randy and his friends, while the same age, had grown up in very different circumstances. They were used to being listened to. They were used to being feared. In fact, Randy, the target of the insult, just stood there. It was actually Troy, the fat kid, who stepped forward, fist-balled, eyes squinting in anger. Who are you talking to? And Troy shouted and took a wild swing at Lou. Lou, who was both in better shape and had sparred with Jeff a time or two before his time spent boxing, was able to avoid the punch, but just barely. Had that been all, it might have once ended there. Troy was clearly taken by surprise at Lou's speed, and actually didn't attempt another punch. However, these were bullies, kids that ran in a pack for a reason. The skinny one, Keith, stepped around and threw a punch that connected with the left side of Lou's face. Jeff had seen enough. He'd been shocked at how quickly this evolved into blows, even though he'd expected it from almost the start. When he'd first met Randy and his friends, he'd been curious. but then he developed annoyance with them, and slowly that annoyance had developed into anger. However, seeing Lou punch, seeing that small trickle of blood form on his lower lip, upon seeing the smug look of satisfaction on Keith's face, that angered Jeff felt suddenly explode into a rage like he'd never felt before in his life. Jeff Woods did not hesitate. He stepped forward, his feet automatically falling into the correct stance that he'd learned from his boxing class his father once enrolled him into, and delivered a powerful right hand to Keith's face. The skinny boy had no time to register shock or pain. The punch caught him by surprise and his knees buckled. Keith went down to the ground in a heap of confusion and dawning fear. Randy, the so-called leader here, was almost too shocked to move. He had quite a lot of experience starting fights, but no real time logged in losing them. He never felt control of his situation slip. He was used to being in charge. So now, seeing one of his friends go down so quickly and easily, left him in a state of shock that he had no idea how to address. Troy, on the other hand, seemed to have a plan. Throw another punch. He moved towards Jeff deceptively faster than his weight would seem to allow, and threw two equally fast punches. Jeff, however, had no problem sidestepping both attempts. Troy, seeming lost for actions, actually dropped his arm, as if to say, "Gee, what do I do now?" Jeff actually had the answer. He moved in, throwing 3 hooks to Troy's stomach. The hefty kid's eyes went as wide as pie pans. A fitting analogy, Jeff thought. He staggered back, clutching his throbbing stomach. Jeff wasted no more time and stepped in once more, fetching a sharp punch to the big kid's jaw, causing Troy to promptly fall on his arse. Jeff was reminded of King Hippo from the Punch-Out game he used to play. He couldn't help but smile. Jeff now turned his focus to Randy. He advanced on the boy, feeling something new forming inside of him. He still felt the anger, the rage actually, at the antics of these 3 arseholes. They had the nerve to mess with their bikes, the nerve to insult 2 kids they'd never met before, and of course, the ultimate offence, touching his brother. However, mixing with the rage was also sweet, enjoyable pleasure. Not only was he kicking their asses, but he was loving every second of it. It was as if the joy of shoving them up was perfectly blending with the rage he felt towards them. Together, it formed a sadistic, controlled sense of power. That was until Lou stepped in front of him. "Jeff, stop! That's enough!" "Why stop now, Lou? They wanted this," Jeff replied in a flat voice that Lou had never heard come from his brother's mouth. "She's calling the cops! Look!" Lou looked over again, and this time, Jeff came to reality long enough to listen. He glanced over at the video store clerk and saw her on the phone talking frantically and pointing towards the parking lot. Suddenly, Jeff's strange sadistic haze collapsed and he regained his former self. "Fuck, let's go," he stated quickly, and he and Lou mounted their bikes and rode towards the parking lot exit. "Yeah, you better fucking run," Randy called behind them. Jeff and Lou paid no mind and pedaled away. A few blocks down the street, they dismounted their bikes and began to walk them together. At first, neither brother spoke. Then Lou broke the silence. "Jeff, thank you for standing up to me there. Thank you." "Yeah, those guys are a piece of shit. They had it coming," Jeff replied, looking down at the street as they walked. What happened? I've never seen you like that before." "Just defending myself, Lou." What was I supposed to do? Let them beat you up? Who cares? We didn't ask to move here. We didn't ask for any of this. Mum and Dad just wanted a bigger house in a nicer neighbourhood. And we were all along for the ride whether we liked it or not. Think I gave a shit about what these asshole kids think of us? Jeff stated and went back to looking at his feet. "Think we'll get in trouble?" Lou asked. "For what? Defending ourselves?" "Yeah, I guess you're right. They did start it," Lou answered, and to the brothers the matter was closed. However, things were far from over. They found that the trouble they believed they escaped was in fact waiting for them on their front door. Jeff and Lou saw the police cars well before they arrived at their driveway. 2 cop cars, both parked in front of their house. Both of them felt their stomachs drop, as they well knew why the police were here. The brothers entered the living room to see their parents sitting on the couch, and 2 cops standing up, leaning against the wall, writing in their notebooks. "What did you 2 do?" Sheila practically screeched as the 2 boys entered the house. Lou, younger and less centered than Jeff, began to fall on the defensive. "Some kids tried to jump us down at the gate by that video store. They were messing with our bikes, and when we went outside, they got in our faces." "That's not what we heard," Atwoods interjected, his voice firm and ripe with anger and dissatisfaction. "No, Dad, that's what happened. Jeff began to explain. We were down at Friendly Video looking around the store when three of these kids started riding around on our bikes. All we did was walk outside and then the kids sat on our tracks to us trying to provoke a fight. When we tried to leave, one of them punched Lou. Finally, one of the two cops spoke. His tag read Williamson. Boys, we have some serious complaints about the two of you. From what the eyewitness at the shopping centre says, you two started the confrontation with Randy and his friends. Jeff took notice how familiar the cop's tone was, and he said Randy's name. This is a small town, after all. And there was a good chance that this cop coached Randy in Little League or drank beers with his dad. Hell, it was even possible that this kid could have been an uncle to one of the bullies. No, sir, Jeff replied. We didn't start it, they did. We just wanted our bikes. We just wanted to leave. They blocked us. Williamson continued as though he heard nothing. Jeff said. Several witnesses, including the video store clerk, said that you swung first. They said that the boys were just riding their bikes, but let me ask you this. Did you chain your bikes to anything, or did you just leave them outside the store? What's that matter? Lou demanded. Well, if you just left your bikes lying around the street, you can't exactly blame Randy and his friends for riding them now, can you? It'd be different if you secured them to something somehow, but you just left them there. Oh, Dad, you're not back this crap, are you? You know me and Lou don't start fights. When have we ever? These three punks messed with us, and if you can't tell that these cops are taking their sides, you need to open your eyes. Jeff knew that he was skating on thin ice, but that